Hello, Joni Rotten here. I wanted to read this article from Scientific America. It's a couple of years old, or a few years old now, but I think it's quite interesting and very much goes along with what we're seeing today. I thought this was quite amazing. So, extended adolescence when 25 is the new 18. It is a common grumble that children grow up too fast. No more. Teens are in no hurry to embrace the punitive joys of adulthood. I think we've been talking about this delayed growth. This was from September 19th of 2017, so a bit old now. Especially now with society's deepest depravities freely available online, youngsters seem to grow up quickly, barreling through adult or towards adulthood, iPhone in hand, while they Snapchat racy photos along the way. But new research suggests otherwise. An analysis by researchers at San Diego State University and some college reports that today's teenagers are less likely to engage in adult activities like having sex and drinking alcohol than teens from older generations. To review, the review published today in the journal Child Development looked at data from seven national surveys conducted between 1976 and 2016, including those issued by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes of Health. Together, the surveys included over 8 million 13 to 19-year-olds with varying racial, economic, and regional backgrounds. Participants were asked a variety of questions and how they spent their time outside of school, and responses were tracked over time. So beyond just a drop in alcohol use and sexual activity, the study authors found that since around 2000, teens have become considerably less likely to drive, have an after-school job, and a date. By the early 2010s, it also appeared that 12th graders were going out far less frequently than 8th graders did in 1990s. In 1991, 54% of high schoolers reported having had sex at least once. In 2015, the number was down 41%. What's more, the decline in adult activity was consistent across all populations and not influenced by race, gender, or location. I've seen so many articles in which experts said they didn't know why the teen pregnancy rate was going down, or opining that teens were behaving in a more virtuous way, or that they were lazy because fewer were working. Recalls Jean, some professor Santiago, and the lead author of the study. She says, our results show that it's probably not that today's teens are more virtuous or more lazy. It's just that they're less likely to do adult things. She adds that in terms of adult behaviors, 18-year-olds now look like 15-year-olds of the past. Isn't that interesting? That's a delay in behavior and or a new state of humanness, we'll say. These two people initially thought the findings meant teens today are doing more homework or engaged in more extracurricular activities, yet their data suggests the frequency of these activities has been stable for years, if not in a slight decline. The fact teens, not unlike many adults, are glued to their computers and smartphones for much of the day may have contributed to the results, the author suggests. Perhaps their socializing and more salacious interests have simply gone digital via texting, sexting, and online pornography. Today's teens watch more porn than their predecessors. Yet virtual vice isn't the whole story, because the dip in adult activities began before the internet usage became common. Well, let's go back and remember that we had a lot of community colleges after the 2010s that were offering adulting classes for millennials. They were saying that millennials as a generation, that would be those born after 1980, didn't know how to wash clothes. They didn't know how to, clean their homes. They didn't know how to do budgets. They didn't know how to cook. They didn't have any parents at home doing these things. They knew how to throw something in a microwave. So there was an uptick in the, ability to take some classes at your local community college called adulting classes. I actually called them this, and they showed you how to do a lot of these things. Could you think to yourself why that would be? If you don't have a parent at home to emulate that is cooking, that is made, why would HelloFresh and these box food companies become so popular? Is it because these children are desperate for something that they lacked when they were children? These adults, I'm sorry, desperate for something they lacked when they were children? I would say most definitely. The more likely explanation for this new extended adolescence is relationship to affluence. The analysis found adolescents were more likely to take part in adult activities if they came from larger families or those with lower incomes. This mirrors so-called, quote, life history theory. The idea exposure to an unpredictable, impoverished environment as a kid leads to faster development, where children who grow up in a stable environment with more resources tend to have slower development course. So they did know that they could delay the development. They did know they could create something before. So, they're doing it with intent. In families with means, there is often more anticipation of years of schooling and career before one necessarily has to grow up. There's plenty of time for that later. They conclude that despite growing income disparities, a significant percentage of the U.S. population has on average become more affluent over the past decades and are living longer. As a result, people are waiting longer to get married and have children. We're also seeing a higher parental investment in fewer children, or in the parlance of our times, more helicopter parenting. Now, I do have a video where I was talking about what overindulgent children end up being as adults, and we have a problem on our way. And they're mentioning it right here. So this may sound like a good thing, and to a degree it is, but it might not equal that here soon. This concept of extended adolescence is not new. It was first made famous by psychiatrist Erik Erikson, and anybody who studies human behavior knows his name well, who in his theory on the different stages of human development termed this stage as psychosocial moratorium. Yet many child psychologists believe today's children seem to be idling in this hiatus period more than ever before. Could it be because it's not just a phenomenon, but it's a phenomenon that is being manipulated, being taken advantage of, something that's going to happen anyway as we cycle through ages and stages. But in this case, I'm aware of it coming, and so I'm going to make moves to exploit and take advantage of that. I'm keenly aware of the shift, as I often see adolescents presenting with some of the same complaints as college graduates. Somebody says, who was not involved in the new study. 25 is the new 18, and delayed adolescence is no longer a theory, but a reality. Who's been saying that for so long? It was me. In some ways, we're all in a psychosocial moratorium, experimenting with a society that where swipes constitute dating and likes are the equivalent of conversation. Some experts caution against the reading too much into these new findings, because asking a bunch of teenagers to accurately recount their behavior has its obvious statistical flaws. The new work highlights how vital it is to do careful methodologically rigorous research. Says another person, working from impressions, damn it, opinions or individuals' experiences can lead to spurious conclusions. But pursuing some degree of truth to the new findings, what might postponing adulthood mean for a society? Are we heading towards a culture of helpless, coddled teenagers unwilling to work? Or given that we're living so much longer than past generations, maybe there's nothing wrong with a few extra years of innocence. Twinge sees both upsides and downsides. She says, it's great to protect young teens, but parents should realize that older teens need some experience with independence before they go to college or start working. Another person adds that although parents can play a role in indulging extended youth, they're not the root cause. They say most are responding to their own anxieties about the new norm, she says. They recognize that now, in order for their children to succeed, they can't simply get a job at the local factory, but may need to face up to 10 plus years of postgraduate education and crippling student debt. She feels that instead of pushing young adults to mature faster, we should embrace the cultural shift and develop ways to both meet the psychological needs of modern teens while also setting them up for future success. She suggests one such strategy might be expanding mental health services for adolescents, particularly because 75% of major mental illness emerge by the mid-20s. She also feels we should stop arbitrarily defining 18 as the age of adulthood and recognize that psychosocial development occurs differently in different people. Researchers need to recognize that emerging adults are a unique developmental cohort and stop lumping them into 18 to 65-year-old categories for studies of adults, she says. That they help us learn about specific needs so we can develop targeted prevention and treatment strategies. Just listen to that. They're on it. They know what's up. Time will tell how extended adolescence influences American culture and character. But in the words of the basketball legend Charles Barkley, there is one clear upside. Kids are great. It's a shame they have to grow up to be regular people and come to the games and call you names. Go, Charles Barkley. Anyway, Brett wrote this. What do you guys think? Do we in fact have an extended adolescence? Has Joni Rotten been right all along? I don't know. Anyway, interesting article. I think I put the link down there if you want to check it out yourself. You want to think about it, throw some comments in, whatever, doesn't matter. You know, we're all basically doomed.